It is the best sled dog in the world, but the owner gave it to a passerby. However, the passerby didn't recognize its value. The next day, the passerby sent the puppy back. The reason was that it was too naughty. The owner Sapala looked at the dog with a headache. He angrily locked it up, and he moved stones to surround the doghouse. Now let's see how you can run away. When Sapala took the sled dogs out for training, the dog immediately became restless. It was eager to catch up, but was blocked by the wire mesh. Then it started digging a hole desperately. The dogs beside it followed suit. It didn't succeed with the first hole, so it started digging the second one. The other dogs gave up one after another. Only it kept going. Finally, after digging the seventh hole, it successfully crawled out. Every time it escaped, it could find Sapala. With a natural leadership temperament, it could always make other dogs follow it. The sled team was quickly messed up by it and lost its formation. Suddenly, a group of deer not far away caught its interest. It turned around and rushed directly towards them. All the dogs immediately chased after it. No matter how Sapala gave orders, it didn't work. The dog just kept running forward. But because it was too short and was blocked by the grass losing its sight, it plunged into the river. Sapala hurriedly ordered to turn left, but he still fell into the river with the sled. This completely made Sapala angry. He directly locked the dog up. At first, the little guy banged around nervously, but after calming down, it began to look around carefully and found there was a hole in the air vent, so it quickly planned its escape route. First, it got into the cabinet. Then it walked up layer by layer from the shelf where things were placed. It went all the way along the beam to the roof. Finally, it pushed open the air duct with its head. The cute look of this little head poking out happened to be seen by Sapala's wife.
Well, good afternoon.
Finally, it jumped down nimbly and continued running to find Sapala, disobedient several times. Sapala made up his mind. Despite his wife's opposition, he sent it to a farther place. The new owner immediately locked the dog in the house. Although this home looked more beautiful, but the dog, which was bent on going back, was so anxious that it paced around in the room. Suddenly, it became quiet. It stepped back a few steps while looking at the window. It ran dozens of kilometers all the way. No one knew how it found its way. At this time, Sapala, who was training in the mountains and forests, suddenly heard the familiar barking of a dog. When he looked up, sure enough, it was this dog. Sapala felt incredible. It could always find him. Looking at the dog's foot cut by the glass, Sapala finally softened his heart and decided to take it home. Sapala wanted the dog to sit on the sled and rest, but it jumped down and came to the front of the team. Sapala thought it wasn't qualified enough to be the leader yet, so he directly carried it to the end. The dog next to it looked disgusted, but it, with high emotional intelligence, didn't care. It immediately licked to show its goodwill. In this way, the dog became a sled dog. Sapala was surprised to find that this dog had amazing speed and endurance. It was obviously better than the dogs in the same row, so he moved it one row forward. But the little guy still ran faster than the dogs in the same row. When they got home, the dog had already become the leader. Sapala's wife smiled happily. The dog finally showed its extraordinary strength, even though it wasn't favored before, but it finally proved itself with its strength. Sapala named this dog Togo. Since then, Togo has become Sapala's most capable partner. A year later, they participated in the Alaska Dog Sledding Championship and finally won the championship. Togo became the most outstanding sled dog at once. But Sapala didn't know that one of his decisions almost cost Togo its life. A diphtheria virus broke out in the town. Dozens of children were infected. The fatality rate of this disease is particularly high. In a short period of time, already 5 children had died, and the serum for treatment was far away in a city 400 miles away. The winter is coming. The most powerful blizzard is about to hit. The plane simply can't fly over. Sapala received the task in a critical moment. This is a race against death. At this time, Togo was already 12 years old. Sapala's wife advised him not to take Togo with him. It was already too old. But Sapala knew, if there was no Togo, he simply had no confidence. The time was urgent. The next morning, Sapala said goodbye to his wife. Sapala might never come back this time. Finally, his wife came up to Togo. Looking into its eyes, she said,
You bring him back to me, okay? And you come back to me. Good boy.
In this way, Sapala and Togo set out with the hope of everyone. All the people in the town came out to see them off. In their eyes were worry, respect, and hope. This is the departure of heroes. Leaving the town, Togo led the team running in the snow. The road ahead was completely shrouded in the blizzard, but Togo was not afraid at all. It led the team to charge directly in. They climbed over a mountain with great difficulty, after finally reaching the top. Then they faced an extremely long, steep slope. The blizzard became more and more fierce. The wind and snow blinded Sapala's eyes. He couldn't see the front clearly. They rushed down all the way. The keen Togo noticed something was wrong. There was a bottomless abyss ahead. It desperately braked and barked. Sepp received the warning. He tried to fix the sled with ice claws, but the speed was too fast, and there was no way to stop. Sepp jumped off the sled. He wanted to use an ice pick to fix it, but due to inertia, Sepp fell down. The sliding speed became faster and faster. It seemed that they were all going to be buried in the cliff. Just at this critical moment, Seppala successfully inserted the ice pick and finally stopped. One step forward would be the abyss. Sepp shouted for Togo to turn around and climb up. At this moment, all the dogs were too scared to move. Togo carefully stepped back. The ground was slippery and it didn't act rashly. It turned around and after stabilizing, it immediately changed direction and struggled to climb up. Togo tried again and again. Its claws were even ground to the point of bleeding, but it still went ahead without hesitation. Finally, after several efforts of Togo, it led the dog team to climb up. Togo came to the exhausted Seppala. It comfortingly licked the ice off his face. Seppala looked at Togo's paws with heartache. After getting out of danger, Seppala decided to cross the ice surface of the Bering Sea. In this way, half of the time could be saved. This ice area was called the Sound by the locals, because the sound of the ice cracking could be heard everywhere. The sliding of the sled made the fragile ice surface break into pieces instantly, and seawater kept spurting out. The dogs were very scared, but there was no way back now. Seppala kept calling each dog's name to cheer them up. At this time, the temperature was over -60°C, and the wind speed was more than 100 kilometers per hour. At this moment, they only had one way. That was the way forward. The mayor sent Seppala's heroic deeds to the newspaper. Their heroic deeds entered thousands of households with the newspaper. It caused a sensation across the country all at once. Everyone was shocked. What they were worried about was not whether the serum could be successfully retrieved, but whether they could come back alive. In order to relieve Seppala's pressure, the mayor sent 20 sled dog teams to help Sepp complete the serum transportation task, but they never expected that Sepp dared to cross the devilish Bering Sea. His speed had already far exceeded everyone's expectations. If he missed the relay team, not only would the time be wasted, but Seppala and his sled dog team would all be in danger. At this time, Seppala, in the wind and snow, had been running day and night without sleep. He was in a trance. Fatigue and drowsiness almost overwhelmed him. It was only with the strong Togo leading the team forward. Just when the relay team was taking a rest, Seppala happened to pass by them. The relay team members turned around and saw it. They quickly chased after and shouted. But the wind and snow were too strong, and the sound couldn't be heard. Fortunately, Togo heard it. Soon, Seppala turned back. They went to the nearest base and handed over the serum. Finally, they had a rest for one night. The next morning, Seppala set out again. There was no extra time. He decided to cross the Bering Sea again, but the cracks on the ice surface were clearly visible. This crossing would be even more dangerous. Seppala thought for a moment. With an order, they embarked on the most dangerous journey, still running forward recklessly. The seawater under their feet was menacing. With the slightest mistake, the whole team would fall into the sea. Before long, the ice surface had been washed into pieces by the seawater. Huge waves lifted the ice floe. On the smooth and slanting ice surface, the dogs could hardly stand still. Togo didn't have time to be afraid. It could only keep running forward desperately. Seppala looked back. The ice floe they had just passed had completely collapsed. The waves came. Finally, they were almost at the shore, but the ice floe was a full 10 meters away from the land. How could one person and 10 dogs get across? Seppala turned around and took out the iron nails to fix the sled. He tied a rope to Togo. Then he threw it to the opposite side with all his strength. Now it needed to use its strength to pull the whole ice floe. Togo mustered all its strength and adjusted its rhythm. If once didn't work, then twice. If twice didn't work, then 3 times. All the dogs started barking wildly to cheer it on. The ice floe moved closer to the shore little by little. Just at this moment, Seppala found the right moment and untied the rope. With an order, all the dogs rushed across. Togo was simply a hero. At the next station, an Indian woman stroked Togo and shed tears silently. She said Togo was dying. The next day when they set off, Seppala wanted Togo to rest. He put it on the sled again and again, but Togo still firmly stood at the front of the team. It wanted to fulfill its duty. Seppala had to comply and tied the rope again. When they were close to the last 20 miles of the journey, Seppala was already exhausted. The snowflakes blew like knives, and he couldn't see anything. He said to Togo, "The rest of the way could only depend on you." Finally, Seppala couldn't bear the cold and fatigue. He lay on the sled and fell into a deep sleep. His life, the dog's life, and the lives of more than 50 children were all interested to Togo. Togo stuck to the task. It led the team forward in the blizzard. I don't know how long it had passed. When Seppala woke up, it was already dark. An ominous premonition came to his mind. He lay in front of Togo, shouting anxiously and lovingly,
We can't stop. We must keep going. Do you understand? If we stop, we die. Listen to me. If you stop, you die.
But Togo was so tired that it couldn't even open its eyes. Was it all over like this? Just then, a beam of light shone behind Sepala. The team members from the supply station had come. It turned out that Togo had completed the task that Sepala had given it. They were saved, and the children were also saved. The serum was passed on among the sled dog teams and was finally successfully brought to the town. In the next few days, many people came to Sepala's home one after another. They brought gifts to express their gratitude. Even the mayor came to offer his condolences in person, but Sepala couldn't be happy. Togo was on the verge of death at this time. Sepala felt very guilty. He only hoped that Togo could get better soon. He, who never allowed dogs to enter the house, let Togo sleep on his own bed. After several days of careful care by his wife, Togo recovered a lot. Sepala was going out. He didn't want Togo to work anymore and left it at home. Just like when it was a child, Togo could always find a way. Nothing could stop it from running towards Sepala, even though its leg was injured, even though it was limping. Sepala heard the familiar sound again. He looked back. In a trance, he seemed to see Togo when it was a child. It ran towards him regardless of everything. At this moment, Sepala finally understood. Togo lived for him. The movie Togo is adapted from a true story. In 1925, a diphtheria virus broke out in Alaska. At that time, there were a total of 20 sled dog teams participating in the serum relay. 19 teams ran an average of 50 kilometers. Among them, one team ran 425 kilometers. That was Togo's team. Its deeds were buried for 86 years. Until Ardenyi, Togo was named the most heroic animal of all time by Time magazine. It was naturally weak and sickly, but it broke through the shackles of fate with its own will and created something extraordinary. It was once disliked by its owner, but it ran towards its owner firmly again and again, unswervingly.
And if you're lucky enough to have known a great one, they never really leave. They stay with you as long as you live, harnessed to your heart, giving their all.